Welcome to Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. I want to spend just a couple of quick minutes bringing you an early forecast or early update on the acorn situation for this year. I never realized how important acorns were until last year and how much effect the abundance of acorns had on my hunting strategy and the way the season played out. So I wanted to get a jump start on it this year and find out if it was going to be more of the same, which I doubted because all the experts say that oak trees don't produce bumper crops year after year. I just wanted to see where we're at. I wanted to see how many acorns are out here. A little bit of, like I said, a preview of what we can expect this fall. Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails is brought to you by Redneck Blinds, Code of Silence Apparel, Hunt Stand Pro Whitetail, Whitetail Institute, Research Equals Results, B3 Releases in Broadheads, and Hoyt. I've looked at a few dozen trees so far, and I've only found a few of them that had the start of acorns coming in on them, and it might be just a tiny little bit early for all the acorns to start to show up on the tree, but you can see that they're forming. I do think that if the tree is going to produce acorns, that we would start to see that now. So again, like I said, very few of them are actually showing any acorns. I don't think this is going to be anything like last year, and that's, for the way that I hunt, that's probably a good thing. I got humbled last year because the deer just didn't come out in the open. They didn't find food sources outside of the timber, which made them, I'd say, less vulnerable to my style of hunting. I like to hunt the fringes. I don't like to go in very deep very often because I'm always afraid that, if I bump a buck that I'm hunting near the area where he beds, I'm probably not going to see that deer. If I do, it's going to be a while and probably in a different location. So I tend to be maybe a little bit conservative or cautious to a fault. And that really hurt me last year because with all the acorns, the deer weren't leaving the timber and I wasn't going in after them, so it made for a pretty long season. I was fortunate on the 9th of November last year to kill that buck, and that was back in the timber. And those deer that I saw that evening were staying in the timber. They weren't leaving and going out towards exterior feeding areas like they normally would. All they were doing was just making laps inside the timber, eating acorns, just moving more randomly. And that's what he was doing. I was fortunate, like I said, to get a crack at that deer. Otherwise it would have been a really, really long season because my normal style of hunting wasn't productive at all. So the question is, do I have to change the way that I hunt this year because of the acorn phenomenon like last year? And it doesn't look like it right now. I'm gonna keep bouncing around. This is a white oak. There's a few acorns on here, just a few. And I looked at, like I said, a few dozen others, and I've maybe seen 2 that had, some sporadic acorns. I saw a black oak that had a few that were coming in. And I'll look at some more of the other oak family, throughout the rest of today before I come up to any conclusions. But the early, I guess the early indication would be that this isn't going to be a heavy acorn year. The deer should be moving out into the open a little bit more, which should make them more vulnerable to, strategies around the fringes. If in the area where you're hunting, you find a lot of acorns, like I said, now is the time to start that scouting process. But if you find a lot of acorns, really what that means is the deer are going to be staying in the timber until those acorns are pretty much mopped up. And last year they didn't mop them up, so they stayed in the timber through the whole season. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it's a normal acorn year. Maybe it takes them the mid-September through mid-October to eat most of the acorns that are on the ground. That's when you can start to see them maybe re-emerge into their more traditional feeding areas, little clover fields, maybe the edges of ag fields, pulling them out to the fringes. So that's what I expect this year, and I may do one more of these updates before we get into the main part of the season and just see if this is holding true. See if the the acorn production is either at or below normal. I'd say right now it's probably below normal. Like I said, it will affect the strategy for sure, the way that I hunt, and probably should affect the way that you hunt too. I'm going to look at a couple more trees, then I'll wrap this up with a final conclusion. This is a black oak to my right, and it's got just a sprinkling of acorns in it. Nothing like last year. Here's another black oak. This one's got a few more. I'd say, you know, a 5 or 10% acorn load on it. Okay, one last tree and I'm going to quit. This is another white oak that has quite a few acorns on it. You know, I'd say, you know, maybe not as much as last year, but definitely one of the trees that I'm seeing around here that's got the most acorns. So it's worth scouting. This tree alone, if normally there's not much on the other trees around, would be attractive to the deer. So you might find this year that situation where an individual tree can be worth hunting, rather than, gosh, last year everything was dropping, so it was hard to focus, you know, on any one specific location, or even more, one specific tree. I've covered some more ground here, and I've seen a very few oak trees that have acorns starting on them. So I'm not going to change my forecast. I'm going to say that we're either going to be at or below normal production this year. And I'll keep you in the loop. I'll do another update here in about another month and see if anything's changed. But that will factor into the way that I hunt for sure. Well, I appreciate you joining me. We'll see you back here again soon for the next episode of Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. And remember to always dream big.